and then my love for hip hop got me to decide to start making my own music. I actually started with I remember back in high school, we had a media arts teacher who was beloved by all of us. His name was Mr. Choi,
Mhm.
and I started recording by just using audio recording information he had at school.
Neecee Lexy, unleash the power of your creativity. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new season of Neecee Lexy. Today, I have with me a very special guest all the way from Vancouver, Canada, and this is an exciting interview because me and him has been know each other for over a year now.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited to share with you guys his musical journey. But before we start, I want to give you guys an introduction of who we're talking about today. He is the one and only outspoken MC. Was born from refugees who flee from war-torn South Sudan and northern Uganda, and later on found peace in Canada. But most importantly, we want to focus on his music career, which is as a hip hop artist, he uses his music to present a new form of perspective that others might not have considered, and also the use of his, traveling life, his stories, and of his parents, and inspirational to preserve, some of his music. But not only that, he has been featured in so many shows. He performed at the Blue Light as well as the Red Room, and also on the Portside Pub, with many more events that he has been a part of. And I am so excited and also have the privilege to have him today with us here. Without further ado, I'm going to actually get you guys to hear his story from his point of view and what actually got him to be in the music industry, and also some of his influence and how he started his career as a MC and a hip hop artist here based in Canada. Without further ado, let's welcome our guest for the day. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on your platform, Neecee.
Awesome. So before we start any interview, I actually want to give the guests the privilege and honor to introduce themselves to get our audience to know, especially for those who already know you and those who don't know you.
Right.
Start about your journey. Just kind of introduce yourself and what you're all about, apart from what I just mentioned.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, hi guys, my name is Lazarus. I'm a hip hop artist. My biggest influences would probably be Jay-Z, Kanye West, and Nas. And I try to emulate those people, or I draw a lot of inspiration from them whenever I make my music. And I just want to create raw music for people to play as a soundtrack to whatever experience they're going through, whether it be a moment of triumph, a moment where they're feeling low, or a moment where they just want to celebrate. I want to create sounds to be your backing track for those moments.
Amazing, amazing. So obviously you have been performing for a while now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, how did you come about to deciding, like, you know what, music is the calling that I want to go with? Like, have you always thought like, oh, I want to be an artist when you were growing up? Like, was that always a thing?
No, really. I mean, because you know how African immigrant parents are, they want you to be like a lawyer or a doctor. I actually was wanting to be an architect
Yeah.
at the beginning, but music was actually something that I could never lose and that I got drawn towards. I remember when I first came to Canada from Hoima refugee camp,
Hmm.
one of the things that you look for when you go from one environment to another environment that's completely
Hmm.
different, and once you experience the culture shock, one
Hmm.
of the things that go you try to look for is an identity, right?
Yeah.
And and for me, that was the biggest thing, was looking for an identity. And I found that identity through making music. I actually started out with poetry, just writing poems, and then that progressed into my love for hip hop music. And then my love for hip hop got me to decide to start making my own music. I actually started with I remember back in high school, we had a media arts teacher who was beloved by all of us. His name was Mr. Choi,
Hmm.
and I started recording by just using audio recording information he had at school.
Hmm.
Not information, sorry, equipment that he had at school.
Hmm.
And so there was like this tape recorder that he had. So we used that tape recorder just to like shoot like short films and such. I
Yeah.
would borrow it from him, take it home to record songs, and I would take the audio from that and then edit it on on my computer,
Yeah.
and I would show him the songs. So as I kept getting better and better, he recommended for me to go to the Vancouver Arts Institute to
Mm-hmm.
learn mixing and mastering, and from there it just everything just kind of bubbled in. I just dived right into it.
Okay.
So this is something I keep very near and dear to me.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is actually the oops, you
Wow.
probably can't see it, but this is
Yeah.
actually the
Certificate?
scholarship I won at the Vancouver Art Institute. Uh,
What?
during
Congratulations.
Yeah. So that's when I went to that program. So the
Yeah.
program was called the ACIT program.
Yeah.
And it was basically a bunch of high school students were given a chance to go to the Vancouver Art Institute.
Yeah.
And so there was people who were in there for acting, for cooking, for a lot of different things. I
Yeah.
was in there for music. And what they didn't let us know was there was actually a competition as well. So
Wow.
luckily I won the competition on the music side of things. So
It's
I was
amazing.
really proud of that. Yeah.
I'm so proud of you, going in there and making sure that, they know about your talent and you deliver 100% of it. This is
Yeah.
really, really inspiring, and it's really, important for you to also highlight and actually showcase that, your journey is now wasn't just like something you were dabbling, you actually put in the work. Um, I know I have actually listened to quite a few of your songs and things like that. I have actually listened to a few of your songs, and some of the top ones that actually you also have mentioned is like the Identity Crisis, No Lies, Mama's Cooking, and Astronaut. Can you tell us more about each and over of these tracks when you were creating? Like, what's the story behind it? When was the inspiration for you to creating all of these singles?
Looking to elevate your style? Whether it's a casual day out or a special occasion, we've got you covered with our curated collection. Discover the latest trends at NeeceeLexyShop.com.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'll start with Identity Crisis. A lot of
Yeah,
the way that I create my music comes from like experiences that I've had in my life or
yeah,
conversations I've had with people. As a first generation immigrant in Canada, you do have that identity crisis that you face where it's like you have your ethnicity, you have your identity tied to your old country, and then
yeah.
you're also trying to fit into this new country. But another reason why I wrote the song was because I had a conversation with a friend of mine. Her name is Cassidy on the
Mm-hmm,
phone, and she was talking about her experience growing up as a mixed race person in
mm-hmm,
Canada and how she felt like she was in the middle of two different worlds
mm-hmm,
and how she just felt so out of place. And she was kind of just expressing that pain that she was going through. And
mm-hmm.
then from that moment, I decided to write that song, Identity Crisis, to kind of highlight like this is something that we all experience.
Yeah.
And it was just a way for me to express that feeling.
That's amazing. I love the fact
Yeah.
that there's a lot of inspiration behind these things.
Yes.
What about the
So
no
all
lies one?
yeah, like all songs really stem from that. No Lies came from a bad breakup. I'm gonna be completely honest. So it was just like a way of me to vent really about
Yeah,
that. Um, and also like songs like A1
yeah.
really came from when I was having a conversation with someone and
Mm-hmm.
they were kind of doubting my ability.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of, I made that song to kind of prove, because they thought that I could only make like
Mm-hmm.
laid back and chilled out music because of my personality. They didn't think I could make something energetic.
Yeah.
So I made that song, which is probably it's still my top song to this day. Actually, it's still number one
Yeah.
on all my streaming platforms. So that was kind of like a song. If you listen to the song, it sounds very confrontational and very
Yeah.
I'm just very much so into myself, as it were, on that song. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was the whole point of it.
That's amazing because I feel like a lot of times it's like, as an entrepreneur, as an artist, is that throughout your journey, like when you're trying to come up and kind of do a lot of amazing things, there's some people obviously going to doubt you, but it's up to
Yeah,
you to prove that you know what, no, like I deserve this spot, like I deserve to be here, and here's my talent. And I feel like you just describing that song is kind of like that, explanation. It's like, no, like I actually got the talent and I could do this. And that is the reason why a lot of people actually love it, and it's still like, your top streaming music. So it's really good. One thing I wanted to ask you is that obviously music itself is not just for hobby or anything like that. It could also become like a business. So
Right.
what do you think is the best strategy that work really well for you as an artist, and making sure that your craft is very authentic to you and also to the audience that are listening to you?
For me personally, it's been being independent.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten some label deals sent my way, and so far I've rejected them. And I think for a little bit longer, I'm going to stay independent because I want to foster that fan base. You know, because I've done a lot of research into it, and
Mm-hmm.
you can really make a sustainable career with just 1,000 true fans.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like they'll buy 1,000 true fans will buy your merch, they'll buy tickets to your shows and things like that. So I've been doing everything independently, and that's allowed me to have the creative license to make authentic music.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is I've talked to people at these labels. I won't mention names because I don't want to burn bridges, but I've talked to these people at these labels, and you know, when you're in that environment, it definitely feels like a 9 to 5 job because you're not creating art, you're creating something to sell. And
Yeah.
I understand, like, at the end of the day, we're all trying to make money as artists and
Mhm.
we're all trying to sell our art, but I feel like the art itself loses its authenticity when your entire purpose behind it is just to commercialize yourself as much as possible.
That's
Yeah.
true. I feel like that's what, like, recently I've been like reviewing some other like artist career, and a lot of them are mentioning that most of them sign up to like a label or record labels too soon, and sometimes they even haven't, like, they didn't actually get to read the fine line as to what the contract is all about, and sometimes they're kind of like honing to like a contract for long term, and they're not able to get out just because of the fine print that they didn't read. And most times it's like the label end up controlling the whole entire life. They can't even produce things like outside of like their own creativity. But I'm
Yeah.
glad that you did your homework and you're able to do it at the right time also when in the future when you decide to, and making sure
Yeah.
that it works for your favor, not just as a commercial thing.
Yeah, it's all about the leverage you have, right? Because if you don't have any leverage, they're going to give you essentially a slave contract
Mm-hmm.
where you're working for them and they're taking a large portion of what you generate.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the only time I want to approach a label is when I get to a certain point where my career is self-sustainable, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that the label can actually provide me with something. It's more so I want to do like a joint venture type of thing, right? I want to do a partnership. I don't want to be their employee. So that's kind of the angle I'm trying to get towards, is I'm building up my leverage by building up my fan base.
Yeah.
And once I feel like I'm at the point where I am comfortable, then I'll reach out to a label and they'll invest in me, but it's not so much so that they're owning me.
Mm-hmm.
It's that I have a fan base that they can profit off of, and they have an infrastructure that I can profit off of.
I feel like that's a really good way to go about and making sure that there's like a mutual agreement between the two of you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah. One thing I also wanted to know is that I know you've been performing in few places and also like some larger stages. What would you
yeah.
say is like one of your or many of your most memorable moment as an artist so far, and why?
I think it would probably be our show at the Red Room because
Yeah.
that was a show that I put on myself with my partner,
Yeah.
and we organized everything. We invested the money. We got a grant from the government to actually run
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
We invested our own money into it, and all of the profits went to us. It wasn't like through a third party or anything like that. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I like to do. I just like to do things on my own because I don't like when you work with a third party, they take a large portion of the profits you make. So as
Yeah.
artists, we struggle with that, with people who weren't involved in the art
Yeah.
taking from us. And I kind of don't want to do that. I want to be an artist who owns his own masters,
Mm-hmm.
who I want to own my own thing basically. Like I don't want a bunch of
Are you
hands involved in
considering
my
on
thing.
opening your own record label to manage?
That's in the works right now.
Yeah.
I actually don't have a record label. I have my own collective right now, which is called Seven Studios,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a couple of artists involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, I might want to make my own label. Yeah, it's just that again, to be completely candid, the label industry isn't as profitable anymore.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to think of a model that can work in today's day and age.
that's true. And I feel like right now, social media, it's really like helping a lot of artists, especially when it comes to like TikTok. A lot of
Yeah,
the new artists are getting discovered or they're going viral just because of people sharing their audio and people getting to like, and once again, it's like you mentioned, like, you need to have that fan base. Once people start to like really engage with your music and start sharing the audio, it goes farther than just like, in Canada and things like that. Yeah. And you guys have more power in the social media spectrum. What would you say like your experience been with like you being in the social media as an artist? Like has that been like beneficial to your music lately?
oh, definitely. Like the one of the biggest highlights I have right now is the
Yeah.
fact that my song "No Lies" was
Yeah.
actually placed on Gary V's playlist
Oh,
back
nice.
in like 2019. So that
Yeah.
song generated over 100,000 streams
Yeah.
across all platforms from there.
Yeah.
So that really helped me kickstart a good base.
I'm a big
Um,
fan of Gary Vee for sure.
yeah, and you know what? The story was actually crazy because the playlist is called Monday to Monday,
Yeah.
and he has his podcast with his partner, and they put like the soundtrack for it's like a hustler's music soundtrack type
Yeah.
thing. And so the deadline for that is on Sunday.
Yeah.
I saw it, and then I actually sent it at like Saturday 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Just as like you know what? Let me give it a shot. It's probably never gonna go on there. I wake up the next day and I see it on there, and I'm in like disbelief. I'm like, I can't believe he listened to this song and decided to add it to his playlist. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely a fun moment, and that all came through just like being on social media, and that opportunity was created by social media.
I feel like this kind of reminds me of the quote that says, like, it's better to stay prepared than getting prepared. So, like, you already
Yeah,
have the music. It's like that opportunity can be like, you know what? Let me just put it out there and see what the universe does with it.
exactly. Yeah.
That's really great. So I know growing up, you said that one of your biggest influence was Jay-Z and you listening to them and things like that. Currently, what is your plan in like the next 2 years? What can we expect from you? I know you're working on a lot of other things behind the scene, but what can we expect from you in the next 2 years or so?
Well, the most immediate thing that's going to happen is on March 27th. I'm going to be opening up for D12 and Obi Trice at the
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver Hollywood Theater. That's going to be my biggest show ever.
Yeah,
It's going to be sold out 1,000 plus, well, more than 1,000 people, honestly. So, because
yeah,
it's my first time opening up for like a platinum artists who have gone platinum and who
yeah,
have gone international. So I'm really excited for that exposure I'll get from there.
yeah,
More long term down the line, things that I'm working on right now.
yeah,
I have I'm relocating to a different location that I'll be keep disclosed for now, but I
yeah,
think my relocation will give me access to a lot of new markets. It's gonna be on the East Coast,
yeah.
and it's gonna give me access to markets like New York, Chicago, even Miami, like those types of places, which align better with my music as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also want to collaborate with more African artists. I want to reach out to some more South Sudanese musicians
Yeah,
and Kenyan artists, and I want to kind of create a new sound from that as well. There's a couple of artists that I have in my mind that I want to reach out to and pay them and make a song with them that is going to do really well. Um,
that would
so
be really
and
nice. Yeah,
yeah, there's this one song that I really like that's called Jenna Tajuba. I'll send it to you. I don't know if you've listened to it,
yeah,
but it's like an originally South Sudanese song and it sounds really amazing. So I want to kind of reach out to some artists based back home
yeah.
and make something.
I can definitely
And
see you and Single D doing something.
yeah, and that's really one thing that
Yeah.
you really learn is that
Mhm.
you make the most when you work with your people.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I really want to start honing in on.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on the show that's coming up, and I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna be dropping all the information in the link below so people can actually who are in Vancouver can go and show support and be there, watch you live. Hopefully when you come down to Toronto site, I'll definitely be there in person as well.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of plans for Toronto. It's gonna be it's called the takeover mission. That's what we're doing.
Indeed.
And
We have a lot of great artists and things like that, and some shows that people are doing, especially in the African community.
yeah.
The industry is very big here. I I know personally, like when I used to work as an event promoter, there
Mhm.
the Toronto Art Council and the Ontario Art Council, they are helping a lot of the artists and giving them grants and things like that to host shows. So it's going to be a lot of good for you too. Yeah.
Yeah, and like one of the things for me that I really value is I think the saying is steel sharpens steel or something like
Mhm.
that. I want
Mhm.
to place myself in an environment that's very competitive because that's where I grow the most. Like
Yeah.
I'm a very competitive person. I want to make the best music. I want to
Yeah.
do just the best everything, have the best marketing, the best branding, and I feel like the East Coast is definitely where it's at for that.
Yeah. And then one thing I wanted to ask you, obviously, for any upcoming, let's say, artists who wanted to become a rapper or a musician, um, what advice would you give them just from your own personal experience on how they can actually thrive in this industry? Because music business is not easy. It takes a lot of
Now,
courage. It takes a lot of, dedication. So what advice do you have for them?
Looking to elevate your style? Whether it's a casual day out or a special occasion, we've got you covered with our curated collection. Discover the latest trends at NeeceeLexyShop.com.
um, the first bit of advice I have is that there's no such thing as an overnight success story.
Hmm.
And the second piece of advice is if it sounds too good to be true, then it's too good to be true. Because there's a lot of people in the industry who will sell you dreams and lies.
Hmm.
Um, just avoid that. Focus on improving your craft first,
Hmm.
because your talent is what brought you to the into the game, or brought you into the industry. Focus on your craft first, and once you feel comfortable in your craft, then you can start developing your brand, your image, your
Hmm.
vision, what you want your fan base to look like. Don't invest into music videos too early or too soon.
Hmm.
Because what I see is people invest. Music videos are not cheap.
Hmm.
A standard basic music video can cost, like on the low end, $4,000.
Hmm.
And then from there, you also have to have a marketing budget, right? So you need to put 4K just for the music video, your marketing budget, and if you want it to look really good, you're gonna have to hire actors, um, your wardrobe, all of these things that come into play. When instead you could have just used that money to
Hmm.
maybe do a couple of photo shoots, um, to get some decent studio time at a really good studio to record quality music. Like at the beginning of your career, I think that money can be spent more responsibly and more smarter in just investing in your craft first. And then once you have the quality music, then you can start investing into things like music videos and such. So those are the small pieces of advice that I have for anyone who's trying to get into this.
That's amazing. Those are really, really valid advice. And I feel like a lot of times it's like when a young person sees like, oh my God, like he's doing really amazing. I want to be like him. And then they start, getting into the group of thinking like they can just takes them like a 6 months or so to be like at your level, but obviously that takes a long, long time.
It
Um,
takes years. It takes
yeah,
years to hone your craft. And sorry, I know you're going to ask a question. One last thing I wanted to
yeah.
say is that a lot of people think that throwing money at something is going to make it good. You're just throwing your money down a toilet. So, invest in improving your craft first. Go ahead.
That's facts, yeah. And then when it comes to, I know obviously you as an independent artist, you want to protect your craft, you want to do all of those stuff. So what are you currently doing, or what, or let's say an advice for anybody that's actually like their own independent artist? What can they do to make sure that they have a copyright to protect their craft so that somebody else doesn't steal it? Because one thing could happen is that you work so hard, you produce a music or you make
Yeah.
a beat, but somebody else comes and takes it and make it their own. Then at this point, how can you protect yourself?
Yeah, the first thing you want to do is you want to register yourself for receiving music royalties and such. I don't want to go too much into the business terminology because
Yeah,
it's definitely complicated. But
yeah,
if you're a Canadian artist, sign up for SOCAN. If
yeah.
you are a US based artists sign up for a BMI,
Yeah.
and those are basically what SOCAN is it's an institution, um, a nonprofit organization, and what it does is it protects your rights as an artist, and it helps you collect royalties if your music is played like on a radio or in anywhere. You get to collect royalties off of that, and that gets directly deposited into your account. So sign up for SOCAN. That's very important.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really good. Because one thing I actually noticed, especially with a lot of our South Sudanese artists, they have such an amazing song and everything like that, but most of them, they don't have protection against like their copyright.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned it. I don't know about how they're gonna do it back home there, but for those who are in Canada, they can definitely follow your advice on that. I know before we depart and everything like that, wanted to also say, I know during the pandemic, a lot of artists were impacted but with their creative and things like that. Did that actually impacted you, like just being indoor and not actually going in any shows and things like that? And how
No.
did it help you creatively?
Oh, it helped me immensely because it gave me so much free time.
Yeah,
One of the things I did was with my partner Stephen.
yeah,
He's my business partner when it comes to this. He's
yeah,
also an artist himself. His name is Raptor McManic.
yeah,
Um, is we created an organization called Uncovered Vancouver,
yeah.
and what we did was we hosted shows that were done with the pandemic guidelines in mind, that gave artists in Vancouver an opportunity to perform. So we created opportunities for ourselves to perform and make money, and also created an opportunity for artists to perform and make money. We did a total of 3 shows that were really successful, and we grossed, I think, nearly almost $10,000 from all those shows,
Wow.
which was pretty decent for the level we were doing it at. It was almost like something we were doing
Yeah,
just for the fun, for the sake of it. But yeah, it worked out really well.
that's really amazing. I'm so proud of you guys,
Yeah. We also
working
were able
hard.
to secure grants from Factor Canada.
Yeah,
So just to answer your question earlier as well, one thing I would also recommend is to
yeah,
seek out grants from the Canadian government if you're a Canadian artist. Like
yeah,
Canada really invests a lot in the arts. There's grants like Factor. SOCAN also has some grants that it gives to independent artists for recording music,
yeah.
music publishing, and rights and all that stuff.
That's amazing. So for those who are basically listening to you here from our channel for the first time and they want to be able to purchase your music or stream it, where can they go to find you? Or let's say there's fans that are right now want to give you some love and shout out. Where can they
Mhm.
find you online?
Yeah, so I'm on all streaming platforms just as Lazarous. That's Lazarous, Lazarus, on all streaming platforms. I also have an Instagram account, which is my main presence on social media, and my ad is it's Lazarus, so it's ITS and then just Lazarus. That's my Instagram handle.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to also add those in the description below and then also in our article as well. So for those who are tuning in, thank you so much for being out with us here today. Lazarus, it was a pleasure meeting you and getting to know so much about your
Thank you very much.
that. Feel free to come back anytime. And if you have any, like, I don't know, show coming up and you would love for us to promote it or to share with our fans, we'll be more than happy to add it to our website and give you a shout out too.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on an album, and once it's complete, it's going to be the biggest thing in the world. So I'm going to reach out to you definitely to market
Awesome.
that.
And make sure to bring it to Toronto. At least have one show in Toronto.
Oh no, that's the plan. We work a lot. We have a lot of plans, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things we want to do in Toronto. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. I'll be here waiting for you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here today.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.